Imagine if there was a way to be able to fix that drag that you face with all the tools in your sales stack that alleviates the burden and gives you more time to sell. Wouldn't that not be something cool? Man, please. This is why I'm here. We got a guest today that's going to tell you all about that, how to eliminate that drag and help you to make more money. Hey, everyone. Welcome to another great episode of the Sales Evangelist podcast. I'm your host, Donald C. Kelly, the Sales Evangelist. And I'm so excited for another great episode. I'm so excited to be here with you today. And on this episode, my goal is to connect you with a genius. Giving a big shout out to my friend Pouyan here, who's going to be able to tell you about this revolutionary idea, which is not necessarily too revolutionary because it's so simple. It's just a simple fact that they did it. And many of us, we try to do this awkward, weird workaround to be able to work all of our sales stack together. And they have a phenomenal process that's going to help you in your process as a sales professional. We want to eliminate the drag and make sure you have more time selling. The notion here, this drag on the sales stack, you kind of framed it a little bit already, but let's think about it from tell me in your experience, like the typical sales rep's day, and like how can we eliminate that sales stack drag? Paint that problem so somebody listening can say, man, I'm at the gym and that sounds just like me.
For a salesperson, this concept of drag, I think, is a really important one. And the drag, we use this term drag, but it's really just this like burden that's put on salespeople that's preventing them from doing their best work. Now that drag comes in a bunch of different forms. One of them is certainly due to the sales tech stack. It's kind of blown up out of proportion. There's tooling after tooling. And, there are a lot of folks that when they hear, gosh, another sales tool, it's not a positive thing. It's like, oh, crap. Yet another tool I got to learn. Another program, another training program I got to go to, another website I need to go and start getting comfortable with. And so there's that aspect to it. But there's also a process aspect to it. And that process comes from more organizations trying to be data driven. And so they're implementing new sales methodologies, which ultimately comes down to the salesperson to say, okay, not only is it enough for you to move these deals forward, but along the way, you need to update and capture all of this information and make sure it's all filled out at this stage and in this way. But then other functions are asking information of salespeople too. Marketing might ask, okay, well, where did they come from? Products asking, who are the competitors in the deal? Finance might ask for stuff. So before you know it, your job as a salesperson is not only to hit your quota and close deals, but then you have to appease the entire company and every function in it. And constantly being nagged, this isn't updated, this isn't updated, this isn't updated. And so that's what I mean by the drag. And, I don't think it's a new concept. Honestly, everyone knows it exists. Salesforce has even done studies on this and shared how much of a salesperson's time is actually spent selling. And I think what we did was a little bit different. Just ask that simple question, why? Why does this have to be the way that it is? Because most folks have just accepted this as an okay or an acceptable state of the world and just saying, well, gosh, this kind of just sucks, but you have to do it. Part of the job of being a salesperson sucks, but you just have to do it. And we just question that. With the explosion of SaaS applications and vendors and tools, one way to differentiate certainly is by having a better product. Another way to differentiate though is by creating a better experience, a buying experience, and being that vendor that customers trust and want to work with. And that's something that's really hard to do when you don't have great collaboration and great handoffs across your team members, because then you're doing a restart every single time. And so much information gets lost. And it's not that it's never captured. I guess there's this belief across certain folks that salespeople are lazy, which it doesn't resonate with me at all. I see how hard folks are working, right? It's because they're saying, this is coming from folks that aren't necessarily in sales. They're saying, oh, they're not updating Salesforce, or they're not getting the information into the CRM, so they must be lazy. It's like, no, they're not at all. They're actually, some of those folks are the most organized. They're capturing the most information. They're on top of their pipeline like nobody else. It just never gets into the system because they have their own system. This is too clunky over here. And so they've come up with their own way so that they can perform. And that's where that tension exists between the flexibility and speed that a salesperson needs to do their job well. It's a really hard job. You're getting faced with rejection all the time. There's so much to manage and keep in your mind. But then the structure that an organization needs in order to scale, in order to make decisions. And that's the piece that a lot of organizations are just, they're struggling with right now.
One of the things you mentioned, I made a note of and wanted to come back to was, and this was a few minutes ago, you mentioned how the individual sales reps process. Again, sales reps not lazy.
Yeah.
She does things according to her process. With something like Scratchpad, is that then, because I feel sometimes organizations, I talked about this on a webinar that I did recently, like I feel like we're experiments in a lab, and they're like, man, Pouyan has been just doing really great and closing a lot of deals. Let me see what he's doing, and then now everybody do exactly this, what he's doing.
Yeah.
But it sounds like everyone could still succeed in different processes. With Scratchpad, those processes doesn't necessarily have to be linear exactly across. Okay.
And I think that's where a lot of revenue teams have, well, maybe failed their salespeople is too strong of a way of describing this. But
yeah,
you go to any sales team and you then sit down with all of the frontline folks, all the salespeople. They all operate differently in a way. Mm-hmm. We're humans, right? We process information differently. We communicate differently. We take notes differently. And so, this is one of the key insights that we had when we were first starting Scratchpad, was that level of flexibility must exist in the product where, Donald, if you are a heavy note taker, very detailed, and you go linear versus I just write to take bullet points and then update my pipeline, both of us should be able to work out of the same system that then can connect to the database. And that didn't exist because of what you said. Everything was so linear and so rigid that if you do not work in this one clearly defined path, then you're off the path. And so, yes, we've deliberately focused on creating and designing this product that anybody in sales can pick up and adjust just enough for them to say, this is for me, right? It fits the way that I work. And, one of our core beliefs is that we should meet salespeople where they are, not only in terms of how they process information, how they work, but literally we've built the product so that it can go anywhere on the web with you. You don't actually have to go to a Scratchpad. I like to think about it as we've like tried to take all of our ego out of the product itself and say, this is here for you, right? So you're on calendar, LinkedIn, email. I mean, calendar is a big one. Everyone lives out of their calendar, and everyone's trying to take calendar data and putting it into a different app. We just said, well, gosh, what if we could bring your notes and your Salesforce and everything else that you need into your calendar? And so that's one example. What we did that, and so that's what I mean by that level of flexibility that's so important for folks working in sales.
You're listening to this episode and you're one of those sellers, and especially working remote, and you want to be able to have your process cemented and be able to use effectively for you. Highly recommend you guys check out Scratchpad. If folks want to get and connect with you guys, besides that, is there a certain place you want them to go to connect with you, Pouyan, or learn about the company?
Sure. Just go to scratchpad.com, and hopefully you'll see one of our core values is simplicity. Hopefully it resonates with you. You can sign up and get started right away. And there's many ways to get in touch with us. We actually do respond and respond very quickly. So if you have any questions, if there's anything we can do to help, please be in touch.
That was Pouyan Salehi, and I highly recommend you go and connect with him. You can find all of his information in the show notes. Again, CEO of a company, amazing organization called Scratchpad. Connect with Pouyan, tell him you heard him on here on the Sales Evangelist podcast, and also check out Scratchpad. See how it can help you and your team. When it's all said and done, we want to simplify the process so that you can be more effective at what you're doing. My goal is to bring on guests that can bring value, that can share with you insights that can change the way you're selling. I want you to find more of those ideal customers. I want you to be able to close more deals. I want you to be able to have better conversation. But most importantly, that you need to raise your level of thinking, to do your very best, and go out and do big things. Thanks so much for watching.